This is Duke University.
Duke religion professor Eric Myers is co-author of a new book out on archaeology in the Holy Land. He stopped by for an office hours conversation about artifacts, Alexander the Great, and what archaeological evidence says about the earliest Jewish-Christian relations.
The major point of the archaeology of the early Christian community in the land of Israel, in ancient Palestine, is that the culture of the first Christians was more or less identical to the Jewish community. And I think the implications of that are very significant. Namely, that although the intellectual, eschatological, theological terms of discussion were changing, everyday life was continued very much on the same plane. Archaeology produces information that helps us reconstruct, first and foremost, the world of the New Testament. Individual items in the Gospels and in the New Testament can be illuminated. The manner of inhumation, the way of Jesus' burial and the rolling stone. The purposes in John 1, the purpose of the stone vessels at the wedding in Cana. We know that they are purity vessels. But to the alerted, caring, discerning eye, that means that those first Christians were still practicing purity laws within their tradition. Hellenism was one of the most creative forces in the history of civilization. Alexander the Great, the Macedonian, came onto the scene in the last third of the 4th century BCE with a vision. He saw Western civilization and even parts of the East as coming together under one cultural roof. He came to Jerusalem, and the Jewish population there was so sick of the Persians and some of the resistance in the latter part of the Persian era that he came peacefully. Josephus, the ancient historian of this period, tells us all the Jews named their firstborn males Alexander in his honor, and this tradition carries on. So there's a very positive reaction to the coming of Hellenism, and it is this accommodation to both Greek civilization and Roman civilization after that, I believe, enabled Judaism and early Christianity, if not both faiths and their traditions, to survive and prosper into the present day. I don't think there's anything more visible and more representative of this mixing of culture than the temple in Jerusalem. The Temple of Jerusalem was one of the great wonders of the ancient world. It is a monument to Herod the Great, who was otherwise quite a nasty guy and had 9 wives and did a lot of very unmentionable sorts of things. But in his adoption of Greco-Roman culture, he had no peer. And I would say for a little later, this lady, the so-called Mona Lisa of Galilee that we excavated, certainly symbolizes the increasing level of Romanization after 70, when the Second Temple was destroyed, and the adoption of Greek language in the heart and core and center of ancient Judaism, at the very place where the Mishnah was promulgated, the first commentary on the Hebrew Bible. I may be odd man out on this, but Jewish tradition sees in the first destruction of Jerusalem in 586 and the second destruction of Jerusalem in 70 as the main day of mourning in Jewish tradition. I do not subscribe to that. I think the loss of the temple, and once again Jews facing the challenge of the loss of temple, having to go ahead and build their synagogues and learn to pray without animal sacrifice, developing a liturgy now that was different and separate from the Second Temple sacrificial liturgy, and establishing a whole new portable kind of religion that was not solely based in Jerusalem any longer was a creative response to tragedy.
Produced by Duke University. Online at duke.edu.